This story is about a stepbrother named Henry, and he's basically psychotic. The ending of this story is by far one of the craziest things I've ever heard. For several years now, when people ask me if I have any siblings, I tell them that I'm an only child. Only people who grew up with me would tell you that it's a lie, and I do in fact have a brother. He is just one of the people I wish I did not share DNA with. We're the same age, 25, but we are not twins. That is because my dad made two women who were enemies pregnant around the same time. And the products were me and Henry. Henry and I have been sworn enemies since we were born. His mom hated mine with a passion to the point where she did not allow Henry to visit my dad if my mom was present. As you may have already gathered, my dad cheated on my mom and the product was my brother. That information was something that I had to know against my will when I was not even old enough to comprehend it. He was dating my mom at the time and ended up marrying her, which angered Winona, Henry's mother. The smart thing to do during any holiday was to keep them both out of the same room as each other. They could throw shade at each other for the whole day, which was pretty ugly to watch. So that meant my relationship with my brother was pretty strained. I did not like hanging out with him because he was really weird. He would pinch me, call me names sometimes, and also steal my stuff. He stole money from my father's wallet several times, and threatened to throw me over a cliff if I told him. This led to me being so scared of him due to the conviction he had when he threatened violence. There was just something unhinged about him that I could sense whenever he was in the room. He made me uneasy while I made him angry because he believed father loved me more. We were opposite, both in appearance and personality. I had my mother's blonde hair and our father's blue eyes, while he had our father's dark hair and his mom's eyes. I was a good kid while he did everything to be a bad kid. The worst part was that we had to go to school together because there was only two schools in town, the Catholic school and the other school. Well, we went to the Catholic school because of our families. They were from higher classes and most of them were religious. My mom and dad went to church regularly, but they did not really take religion seriously, while his mother was a devout churchgoer. This will be very important information for later. I was one of the best students at school with a clean attendance record and part of multiple culture and sports clubs, while he was the troublemaker. They nicknamed him the Devil at school because of how next level his antics were. He had a bunch of equally terrible friends, and together they terrorized students, while acting innocent to the teachers. The deal was that I would stay out of his way while he stayed out of mine. Most people would never guess that we were related because we were complete opposites. As I grew older, I gained more confidence and became less scared of him. I would tell my parents every time he misbehaved or hurt me, and they would punish him. Sure, it earned me the nickname of Snitch, but I don't care. He was a selfish and cruel person who did not even deserve to enter my father's house, but my dad let him stay with us every weekend and holiday. I had stopped complaining to him about bringing my brother home, and instead I just made sure that Henry got busted, getting up to no good every time. So, when he just turned 16, an opportunity for me to finally get rid of him presented itself on a golden platter. It was a school night, but Henry was at our house, which was unusual. But apparently, his mom was out of town, so we were stuck with him for the rest of the week. It was in the middle of the night when I suddenly awoke. I cannot remember why I woke up, but I did go to the window. It was very late in the night. but Dad's car was pulling out of the driveway. I went to my mom's room to ask what was going on, but my mom and Dad were fast asleep. So I decided to check my brother's room just in case. Well, as you thought, he was not there as I had suspected because he was probably halfway to wherever he was going. This presented the perfect opportunity for me to expose him to Mom and Dad for stealing Father's car. So far, my father had forgiven him with light punishments, but this time, he was gonna flip. Immediately, I knocked and woke them up and took them to the empty garage. My dad went mental mad when he saw that Henry took his car without permission, which was exactly how I felt he was going to react. He tried calling him, but he did not pick up his phone. Dad said that we should all go to bed and we would deal with brother the fact following day. Sure enough, he snuck back home while we were sleeping, and when we woke up, he was at the door. That was because Dad had locked the front door. Dad questioned him about his whereabouts, but he tried to lie to him. He did not waste any time, though, in telling him that he was grounded and he was not going to get his allowance for the entire month. I laughed at him and told him that he got what he deserved. He said that he knew I was the one who snitched on him, so he was going to make sure that I paid. Me, being the arrogant little girl that I was, decided to dare him. Because, well, I had no skeletons in my closet. That was more his thing than mine. But boy, was I wrong. Because that appeared to be the last straw for him. I had a feeling that I had angered him because I caught him weirdly looking at me for the next few days. He was even more creepy and menacing than what I was used to. I had a feeling that whatever he was planning was going to hurt me very much. I just did not have any idea just how much he was planning to hurt me and how close to home it's going to hit. I will not act like the victim here, but what he did to me was a violation of so many laws, and it turned my life into a living hell. When I went to school about a week after the car incident, a lot of people were just staring at me with every judgmental eye and mouthing bad words when I passed them. I was confused about where that came from when I obeyed every rule at church and school. Well, as the day progressed, even my friends were treating me like a leper, and halfway through the day, the teachers were too. Every time I tried to ask what was going on, I got nasty looks and was accused of being a disgrace. When my own friends would not sit with me at lunch, that was when I snapped and demanded that they should tell me what the heck is going on. That was when they showed me a picture of prescription for me that was for birth control pills. I felt my whole world crashing down around me because the secret that I've been keeping because I feared that I would be shamed was now out in the open for all to see. It was not a lie. I took birth control pills. But I did not know how the information had suddenly leaked into the hands of people who had no business knowing about it. They thrived on scandals and shunned anything that pointed towards someone being sexually active before marriage. Every teen who got pregnant in town was immediately labeled a social pariah, yet those who chose to protect themselves were seen as harlots. And now, everyone thought that I was having sex before marriage. The funny part was that they wanted to judge me when they were also not obeying rules while acting innocent. But if they had any chance to shame a woman, they all went along with it. The worst part was that I've kept my vow to save myself for marriage. Yes, I was taking birth control, but it was because I had endometriosis, and that was the treatment I was responding to best. My mother knew about it and was the one who took me to the doctor to get help when I kept getting symptoms. I tried to explain that things were not what they seem, but my friends all left me standing there talking to myself. I was the topic of every conversation, receiving various self-righteous text messages from people. I thought they were my friends, telling me that I was doomed to go to hell. The worst part was that even the school decided to punish me based on their prejudice. I was called in for disciplinary hearing because I was not, quote, upholding the school values such as virtue. To this day, it baffled me that these were the grounds for them to suspend me and have a disciplinary hearing for me. I had no idea what to do. I was so depressed and crying nearly every night because of the blatant lies being told about me. But my parents were by my side and made sure to prove to the school that they were full of nonsense. My parents explained my situation and provided the medical reports that proved I had the condition and the pills were just to manage it. I could tell that they did not want to admit that they were wrong, but the other alternative was for my parents to sue them for discrimination. I was sent back to school and they dismissed the charges against me, but I was never the same again. I was always angry at myself, other people, and most of all at Henry. He had admitted to me that he was responsible for leaking the information, but I did not have proof. It would not even help to expose him because my reputation was already tarnished and I did not have any friends. Well, almost no friends, because one of my best friends went to the other school, Lulu. Lulu was one of my friends who was very smart and into messing around on computers. She was also very feminist and against what my brother had done to me. She offered something to me. She offered to sort him out for me several times before the incident, but I refused every time. But this time, I wanted to make him pay for all the pain he caused me. So I told her to go after him with everything she had, and she did not disappoint. Like I said, she was a very good hacker, and she managed to hack all his gadgets. And what she found, it was juicy. Forget about skeletons in the closet, the guy had an entire cemetery. I will not even mention the sick things that he had on his phone, but that should have been a sign back then that he was not okay mentally. But out of all the things she found, the most interesting one was the little business he had on the side. Yep, selling prescription pills he was getting from a local doctor. It was the kind of stuff that people used as drugs and was in high demand from many people in school. His client list consisted of about a quarter of the kids at school, and a few of the teachers as well. Gosh, I wanted to leak everything and burn it to the ground, but I was so much smarter than he was. Instead, I took the evidence and showed my mother. She told me that we had to go to the police with this information. She said that it was worse than what she had and Dad feared. But when I asked her to elaborate, she refused to speak further. My mother looked shaken and almost scared when I showed her some of her other stuff that he had on the phone. I'm unsure if it's illegal, but he had a lot of gruesome films and comic books with violence involving women and very young children. He would tell me years later that he had been friends with dangerous people on the dark wide web, and his mental evaluation showed that he had psychopathic tendencies. I knew that he killed Mom's cat when he was 10 years old, and she had to get him some therapy, which was one of those things that made Mom so scared. She was with me the process of giving the information to the police. My dad also agreed that he had to get help and we could not help him anymore. There was just too much stuff going on with him, and even his mom could not just give him a pass. For the first time ever, I saw my mom and his mom get along and say that he needed help or he was going to have a dark future. It was like a premonition because he was only headed into one direction. One day he was there and the next he was gone. Several people were taken out of class to be investigated at school, and there were whispers of something even darker than an illegal drug business. See, 3 months before, a boy from the other school, who'd my brother fought with in very public fight, had been involved in a drug overdose of the drug that he was selling. There were no suicide notes or any indication that he wanted to take his life. But now, they thought my brother was linked to his death. This was not how I wanted to play out. I thought we were going to find some embarrassing secret that would make him the laughingstock of the entire school, not open a murder investigation. The whole thing was dealt with very quietly, and the adults kept us away from the investigation. They were very vague, only letting us know that he was being sent to a place where they could help him. I asked my parents, but they told me he was at a mental facility and was declared not mentally stable to stand trial for the murder. They said that he had gone off the edge when they had arrested him and tried to hurt the police officers, but that now he was in a better place. 4 days after he was gone, I thought he would walk through that door and look at me with his cold devil eyes, telling me that it was not over yet. But the days turned to months, and soon turned to years, and I forgot about him. His mother could not handle the abuse from the community because of her son, so she moved out of town and I never saw her again. We cleaned out his room, gave away his stuff, and threw away any pictures of him. I graduated, went to college, and got married to a police officer. We had a beautiful baby boy a year after we got married, and had the perfect little white picket fence life. I told anyone who asked that I was an only child, because Henry was just a monster from my past. I never once thought about him, not knowing whether he was dead nor alive. That was until one morning I was checking the mail and I got a letter from an unknown person. There was no address, no postage, no stamp, just my name in all caps. I opened the letter and my stomach instantly sank, because on it was a few lines, and it read this: Eliza, it's been so long, but I've not forgotten what you've done to me. You thought I was dead and gone, but I can never leave you alone. You'll feel what it feels to be hopeless. At first, I thought it was just a prank from the neighborhood kids, but no one called me Eliza, ever. It was either Elizabeth or Lizzie. Only one person used to taunt me with the nickname Eliza, saying that it sounded like a lizard. The person I had foolishly thought would never get to me again. Henry. While I was sitting there reeling and trying to calm down enough to call my parents and tell them what's happening, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered it with hesitation, expecting to hear his voice, but it was the voice of a woman. What she told me made me forget about the threat in my hands. My husband had just been run over by a motorcycle while outside his workplace. He was in critical condition at the hospital. I knew immediately Henry had only just started, and he would not stop until he took everything. I wasn't lying to you guys when I told you that ending was crazy. Now, I've been following the original thread very closely, and apparently, any day now, OP's dropping an update to what exactly's transpired since then. If that sounds like something you're interested in hearing, make sure you subscribe, because the second that update is posted, I'm going to make a video about it. Guys, the next story that we're going to look at today is called My Fiance Spent Our Entire Savings, which was for our wedding and honeymoon, to buy an $8,000 gaming PC. Yeah, you heard it correctly. Here's story number 2. My fiance and I got engaged in December of last year. In January this year, we both got together and decided to save money every month for our wedding and honeymoon. In 6 months, we saved around $8,000. Last month, my fiance's best friend bought a new gaming PC, so even my fiance wanted to buy one. So he asked me, but I denied it, because we both already had laptops. I told him that he can play games in the laptop that he already has. He repeatedly kept asking me if he could just buy a PC. And I finally agreed to it. Now I regret it so badly. After a week, the PC finally came, and with the PC, a new table and chair was also delivered. Apparently, he ordered a gaming chair and table as well. That night, I asked him how much it all cost, and he was a little hesitant to tell me. After a while, he told me, and I was distraught when I heard that he spent our entire savings of $8,000 to buy the dang PC. We had a very big argument that night, and I scolded him from spending all our savings because that savings contained not only his money, but my money as well. And we were saving it for our wedding. After everything that I told him, his final reply was, quote, "Oh, I'll earn it back all soon." I don't trust those words. I thought anything worse than this could not happen at the moment, but it did. It's been about 2 weeks since he got the PC, and since then my fiancé has not gotten up from his new chair. Ever since he got the PC, he hasn't even seen my face. The only time he talks to me is when he's hungry. He calls me to tell him and get something to eat or drink. I call him to watch TV and he denies it, saying that he's busy. I call him to sleep together and he denies it and says that he'll sleep later on. His sleep schedule has been ducked. He plays games the whole night and sleeps at 5 a.m. and wakes up at 2 p.m. He's asleep when I'm awake and he's awake when I'm asleep. From the past 2 weeks, I've been so lonely that it feels like I'm alone at home and nobody even talks to me. He's ignoring me so much that I think he has absolutely forgotten that I even exist in his life. Honestly, I feel like his waitress nowadays, because for the last 2 weeks, the only interaction we both have is him asking for food and water and me giving it to him. He's also 100% stopped doing all the household chores. From the past 2 weeks, I've been the one doing all the house chores, and it's getting very hard for me to do it all alone. We used to share our responsibilities and do all the house chores together, but like I said, from the past 2 weeks, he isn't even taking care of himself. He's barely even brushing his own teeth, or taking a bath, let alone do the house chores. Also, he's actually supposed to be working from home, but ever since this PC arrived, he hasn't even touched his laptop to work. And he isn't even seeing his phone to check if someone's called or texted him regarding work. I'm now genuinely afraid that he might lose his job. Everything that's happening right now is so bad. I called my parents and told them about it last night, and they almost had nothing to say. I'm thinking of calling his parents tonight and telling it to them, and maybe they can knock some sense into him. I honestly don't know what else to do now. I want to burn the PC. It would be very nice if someone suggested me something about this. Thank you very much for listening to this, and thank you very much in advance for your comments and suggestions. Alright, so I'm just going to say, this guy is definitely the a-hole, and he cannot just go and spend $8,000 on a computer when it was clearly not even his money. I don't even know what computer he bought for $8,000. He must have called up NASA and asked if they had any computers for sale. Because, well, $8,000 seems absolutely insane. Okay, guys, so that's all the stories I have for you today. Let me know your thoughts and discussions about it. You know what to do. Drop the comments down below, and we'll talk about it. Have a wonderful day, and remember, it's cool to be kind.